lesson. I'll cut it after every half an hour, the videos. So when we do ratios is part of paper 1. So paper 1 works like this. Question 1, income statement, balance sheet. And if you go look on Accountanese, what I did last year with my kids is I did a run through of every way they could ask it. I didn't work out a question. I said they could ask it like this, they could ask it like that. So you'll see there's a run through of question 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then paper 2 as well. So you can go look on Accountanese, you'll find it there. This that I'm doing today is question 3. So question 3 is usually a thing where everybody goes, oh, I can't do this, I'm not clever. But it's actually where you get easy marks. We've already established that question 2, you can get a lot of easy marks. Ne? Now question 3 is the same. Now before I go into question 3, I want to just first give you an overview of the format answers of ratios. Now the first thing you need to realize with ratios is that 2/3 of every question is just quoting the right ratio and saying if it increased or decreased, or if it's better or worse. That's it. The other third is the high order, where you say, oh, you think they should do this and that and whatever. But 2/3 of that question is actually low order, middle order. You just need to go identify the ratio. And remember when we did the ratios last time, where I explained the ratios, it's the same thing. They have keywords. Remember, and I know I didn't tell you to have this here, but remember this, where I give you the keywords. This is exactly what we're going to work with now as well. So the first keyword that you look out for is profitability. Sometimes they would even, let me just put that there. Sometimes they would even not talk profitability, they would talk, let me just do this. Or they will talk operations. They will say, how well did this business company operate? Okay. So now with this, we know it's those ratios of something on top of something. Ne? We know if we go to the format sheet that it would be the ratios net profit on sales, operating expenses on sales, operating income on sales. Ne? It's those ratios. Now with them, the comments is everything is good if it increases. In other words, if your operating profit on sales was 10% last year and now it's 12%, there's an increase, then it's good. Okay? So, I'm just going to quickly tell you how the format is of answering. Okay? So the format of answering is always, you quote the ratio, so you quote the ratio's name. Ne? That's the first thing you always do. In other words, you don't just say, it increased from this to this. You have to name it, right? So you're going to say, the operating profit on sales. So you have to quote the name of the ratio. Ne? Then you're going to quote the figures of the ratio. And then you're going to give a trend. Okay, so it will look like this. The ratio, name, increase, decrease from figures to figures. This is how a model answer looks like. Okay, so for instance, let's say we have we are still busy with operations here. Let's say I have operating profit on sales. You will say the operating profit on sales increased from 7% to 9%. Okay, and that's a minimum of 2 marks already. Okay, so get used to that. So your profitability operation or operation questions, will always, if it increases, you are happy. Except operating expenses on sales. You are happy if it decreases. Okay, that's the only exception. So let's go through this again. Has everybody copied the bottom here? No. Okay, so now if I look at this, let me say again. So in other words, if I look at my 6 ratios, or is it 5? I can't remember, I think it's 5. So it's operating profit on sales, cost of sales on sales, cost of sales on gross profit on cost of sales. Is it 6? And all of them, you will say it's good if it increased from last year to this year, except operating expenses we want to decrease, which makes sense. We know that a business is operating efficiently if a smaller portion of his sales is used for the expenses. Then he's more efficient. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one is solvency. Now solvency, we all know, solvency is total assets to total liabilities. Right. So the thing with solvency is that you can't just be insolvent. It's a legal process to become insolvent. Okay? So with solvency also, you're going to quote the ratio. It increased or decreased. Right? But you cannot say if it's 0 point something to 1. You can't say the guy is insolvent. Right? You can say the company will struggle to pay all or long-term, all debts. It will be a challenge. But it's not impossible, because does all your creditors and loans come in and ask all their money at the same time? No. So you will still have time to generate more income. So it's not impossible for you to pay off your debts. It's just going to take some maneuvering. Okay. So be careful not to say he's insolvent, because he's not. Okay? Yeah. Yes. No, sorry. I wanted to say all or long term, but it's actually all debts. Because remember, it's total assets to total liabilities. And who knows? In the time, maybe one of your fixed deposits, please close the door for me. One of your fixed deposits might mature. Then you have cash again. You guys see? So there's, please take a paper. So there's always a flow of cash. So at this minute, when I did this calculation, my assets and liabilities weren't equal. But now you also have to remember, as time goes by, some of your liabilities is paid off. So your liabilities is going to get less. You see? Okay. So Now we get to the one that they always ask. This is such an important one to understand, and it's liquidity. So liquidity, right, is the ability to pay short-term debt. Okay, now we all know that liquidity has got 6 ratios that we can use, right? So that 6 ratios works in 2s. Okay, so I'm going to start with the stock one. So I've got stock on hand and I've got stock turnover. Right. What is stock on hand? Stock on hand is how long will stock last? In other words, the answer will be, oh, I have stock that will last me for what? For 1 month, 30 days. Ne? So can you see the guy who's in charge of the stock manager, needs this ratio because he needs to plan if it's necessary for him to get stock in again, right? And he needs to take things into consideration like how long does it take for the stock to get here? Ne? Is this a seasonal stock? So maybe it's the peaches. Maybe they've got peaches that's still going to last for 1 month, but it's seasonal, so you won't get peaches anymore. So now he needs to start ordering oranges. Can you see this is going to help him plan? But you will see stock turnover. Stock turnover is how fast it sells out. So it's in other words about replacing. How many times this year did we need to replace the stock? So now, if my stock on hand is 1 month, it means I replaced it 12 times. Can you see they are inverse? So if your stock on hand was 2 months, ne? Or 60 days, your stock turnover would be 6 times. You get it? Let's go quickly about that again. Let's say I have 1 item that I sell, and it takes me a month to sell the item. Then it means I've got enough stock for 1 month. How many times will I sell that item? 12 times, because there's 12 months in a year. Right. And can you also see, saying this is good or bad, you need to also take into consideration what type of product you're selling. If I'm selling a Rolls Royce, 12 times a year is like ridiculously good, because a Rolls Royce is handmade. Okay? But if I am selling cake 12 times a year is not good, because then it means what are you selling the other 29 days of the month? You get what I'm saying? Okay. So now, if I look at this, can you see you do not want, so the thing with stock on hand, you need to be careful not to have too much, ne? Because if you have too much stock on hand, what can happen? If it's a product that can go bad, it can go bad, it can get stolen, it can get out of fashion, it can break, it can, and this is important, cost you a lot of money for storage. You see? Okay. It can cost you a lot of money in insurance, because you need to insure your stock. So if you have too much stock on hand, it's also not a good thing. If you have too little stock on hand, it's also not good, because if people come into your shop and the item is not there and they have to go to another shop, you most likely lost a client. Okay, can you see it's a fine balance? It's actually a study field. If you go into stock, it's a study field. It's interesting. Let me just pause. So, you will always look at those two. So can you see, if you need to comment, if your stock on hand is 2 days, then you know it's too low. They're going to run out of stock unless they are baking bread. You get what I'm saying? If the stock sells out faster, so it goes from 12 times to 24 times, that is wonderful, because it means your stock is replacing faster. Okay, so you guys see how this works. Because what is liquidity about? It's about money, getting cash in. So remember, if your stock is also being kept too long, where's your cash? It's in the stock. You see? Okay. The next one I want to do is your debtors collection period and your creditors payment period. Okay, now it works like this. If you look at debt, remember when we did the debtors age analysis last year, right? So if we look at debt, I want my debtors to pay before 30 days, because then it's as good as cash. I want them to pay fast. How do I get debtors to pay fast? Oh, I send them reminders. I charge interest if they overdue. I give them a discount if they keep to the credit terms. Can you hear how I'm talking? Okay. Now, then I get 60 days and I get 90 days, which is the max. And I want to pay my creditors somewhere here. And the longer I take, the longer I can push it towards 90 days, the better. Okay. Now the big thing here that you need to remember, your debtors must always pay before you pay creditors. This is an extremely important thing to remember, because what they will do, for instance, is they will say the debtors is 35 days and the creditors is 25 days. Then immediately you see there's a problem with liquidity. Why? Because we are paying the creditors with money I should use for operations. What is your operations? Let's quickly think. What's the most important thing in any business? Your cash flow. Because you need cash to operate, to have business every day. You need that you can pay your rent, that you can pay your salary and wages, that you can pay your insurance, your water and electricity. Can you see those things is crucial for a business to run? Paying my creditors is not crucial. It's important, but it's not crucial. So, yes, pay them a bit later, pay an interest, but have cash to run your business. Okay, so you never pay your creditors before your debtors pay you. So you're always going to put stuff in place to let your debtors pay faster, and you're going to negotiate. Remember, your supplier is not someone you buy from once off. Your supplier is a constant partner in your business, because also he wants you to stay with him if you are a good payer. If he's someone that delivers on time, if he is someone that you can trust, you don't want to lose him by paying late. So what do? You negotiate. So you negotiate, and obviously the creditor will know, oh, you know what? I would need to be a little bit lenient on this guy because he's a good client. So let's make it that he pays 50 days. I give him 50 days. Or I give him 40 days. And then I say, okay, I can't do 40 because I always have debtors that's late. I'm going to try and up my internal control that they pay me faster. But can't we push it to 60 and then you charge me, say, 2% interest? Sharp. You get what I'm saying? Yes. Okay. So that's how they work together. Now, so you always try, they will always ask you to comment on the liquidity of the company. Ne? So now you go and you look at your ratios and you go, look, is there something with stock? Because stock is so easy to comment on. Because you just say, if the stock turnover goes up, you say, then it's good for liquidity. Ne? If the stock on hand goes up, it's bad for liquidity. Can you see that? Because it means your money is tied up in your stock. It's not, your stock isn't becoming money. And that's a problem. Okay, you get what I'm saying? Okay, so you always want something to do with stock because it's easy to comment on. Can I quickly say to you how it sounds like to get 3 marks? Emmanuel? It sounds like this. Stock turnover increased from 7 to 10 times. Stock is selling faster. Is there anybody who can't do that? Can you see how easy it is to comment? You think you're going to have to write this essays about what happened and, oh, there was a snowstorm and the snowstorm made people... No! That gives you your full marks. So keep it simple. The other one you're going to look for is you always look if there's debtors or creditors. And you go look. So it's easy like this. My debtors collection period increased from 28 days to 40 days. Debtors take longer to pay. Full marks. No? Not, oh, we are struggling with internal control and the bookkeeper forgot to send that. No. You will literally say, debtors collection period. Remember what I said? You quote the ratio. Ne? Increased. So you quote you give it a trend. From 7 to 12, 28 to 40 days. So now you've got 2 ticks. Now they want to see if you understand the ratio. And you understand the ratio by saying debtors take longer to pay. 3 out of 3. Now let's get to the next one. So the next 2 is the 2 that you need to see the relationship. So we all know we have done the current ratio and the asset test ratio. Okay? Now the current ratio is most my current assets to current liabilities. Okay? Can everybody in the back see if I write small like that? Let me make it a bit bigger. Okay. So now, what is current assets? It's inventory, receivables, cash, to current liabilities. What's current liabilities? Creditors, bank overdraft, short-term loan, such with a credit balance, shareholders for dividends. But current liabilities, you always use the total in the balance sheet. It's not a breakdown. Now can you see the order, how it works? It's inventory, stock, furthest away from cash. I sell it. Now people owe me. A little bit closer to cash. I get cash. Once I have the cash, I pay my creditors. I buy new stock. You see? Receivable, I sold it on credit. I get the money for it. I pay the creditors. I buy the stock. Debtors buy it, I get their cash, I pay the creditors. And so it goes on and on and on. Can you see? Now, if I go to the asset test ratio, it's liquid assets to current liability. Now, what is my liquid assets? It's the one that turns into money the fastest. So it's literally my receivables and my cash to current liability. So if I ask you, what is the difference? What is the difference between current ratio and asset test ratio? Let me ask you, what is the difference? What is the only thing that is in only one of them? It's your stock. And the thing that we want to see by doing both ratios is we want to see, is our stock or is our cash tied up in stock? That's what we want to see here. This is a very important sentence to remember, and this is green highlight. I know it looks blue, but it's green. Okay. Are we happy? So, let me explain to you. I'm going to do the explanation on the back side of the summary, because it's not part of the summary. You can refer to it. Okay. Now, let's go look here. If I say to you, example, I say to you, my inventory is 70, my receivables is 30, my cash is 40, ne? And my current liability is what? 50. Ne? Now, if I look at this, I have a block on top that says current assets is 140. Let's make the current liability 70. Let's just make it easier. Okay. So now if I do my current ratio, it's my current assets to my current liability. Now, if I look to that, what is it? Oh, it's a ratio. What do I do with a ratio? With a ratio, I always put the double point 1. Then I read from left to right. So left says 140. This is like a dividing. So 140 divided 70 gives me 2 to 1. Do you think this is a good ratio? Of course this is a good ratio. Okay? Okay. Now, if I do my asset test ratio, I can do it one of two ways. I can say 140, the total, less the inventory. Or I can say the receivables and the cash. Can you see both of them are going to give you 70? You guys with me? So, 2, current liability still 70. Can you see? I put the double point 1. 70 divided 70 also gives me 1. So now if I ask you, do you think this business is healthy in cash? I think so, because they have 2 rand for every 1 rand with stock. They can still, without selling any stock, they can still cover their short-term debt. You see? Okay. So in other words, half of their current assets is stock. Okay? You can see that. Now let me change this inventory to 100. So now it's 170. Okay? So what happens now? My current ratio is going to be 170 to 70. This I want to have 1. 170 divided 70 gives me 2.4. Is it an improvement? Yes. It increased, so it looks really good. Okay? Now let's go to the acid test. The acid test is still 70 to 70. So it's still 1 to 1. Can you now see your stock is 1.4 to 1? Can you now see it gets a little bit less good? This looks very good, but it didn't change my acid test. What's happening now? A lot of this is tied up in the stock. Let's do it that this is 200. So now I've got what? 270. So 270 to 70 gives me what to 1? 270 divided 70 gives me 3 Rand 85. It looks good. But is it good? Let's see. My acid test is now still 1 to 1. Yes, I can pay my debt. But can you now see that 2 Rand 85 is not working for me? Can you see here? You will say, stock not moving. Meaning it's not selling. You can say not moving, not selling. Cash tied up in stock. And then if I want a solution, what is your solution for this? You need to get rid of the stock. How do you get rid of stock? You can have a sale, but now because the word sale and sales is the same, you're going to say have a end of range or end of season sale, né? Or you can say I will mark it down. In other words, what I will do is my markup isn't going to be 100%, I make it 50%, I still make a profit, just less, but I'm getting rid of the stock that doesn't sell. What is the other easier answer? I need to up my marketing. Because if I advertise, people will know about my product. You can also say, I need to go look, if the competitor gives a better quality at a lower price, then I need to adjust. Anything like this. Can your business kids see how you can now use your entrepreneurial skills here? Okay. Now I want to ask you, which of the 3 here is the best? The first one. This one is the best. Why? Why? You never really want your stock to be more than double your liquid assets. Okay? But you're not going to write that down in a paper. This is just for you to measure if it's good or bad. So, they're going to give you something like this. Let's say I give you a current ratio, 2.5 to 1, 7 to 1. Which one is better? 2.5 to 1. What happens if can you see it's decreasing? But now it's good because it's going to the more better one. Your best option is those two. So this scenario here is your best scenario. You want to work your current ratio 2 to 1 as close as possible to 2 to 1, and your asset test as close as possible to 1 to 1. Then you have optimized your cash, because you also don't want too much cash. Ne? Because if you have too much cash, your cash isn't working for you, it's just lying there in your bank account. You can then rather put it in a fixed deposit where the interest is more. You see? So accounting is all about maximizing the efficiency, right? And that's why you do these ratios, so that you can see, oh, I must be careful. Why is why is it so high? If it's the stock, how will I find out if it's the stock? Oh, I look at my asset test ratio, because that will tell me if my stock is in proportion too high. If it's my stock, advertise, so I start selling, so I can get cash. Is it maybe my debtors? Is my debtors very high? Then I need to ask myself, now where will I see if the debtors is very high? Oh, I will see that in my debtors collection period. I'll be able to see if my debtors are taking very long. Why are they so high? Are they taking longer than 30 days to pay? Then I need to know, I need to up my internal control over my debtors. How will I do that? How will I do that? I'll have all those internal control measures that I need to put in place. I need to be stricter with my debtors. Don't allow them to buy if they owe, for instance. Okay. Maybe I have to go look at my screening. Is my screening strict enough? Okay. Is it my cash? Is my cash too low? Maybe. Maybe. I have a bank overdraft. Can you see? Then my bank does not contribute to the cash. Then my bank contributes to the liabilities. Maybe I must start working on my bank overdraft. Can you see? That's how it goes. But when we answer these things, you don't go and talk all these wonderful things. You keep it simple. So for this, what will you say? You will say, the current ratio decreased from 7 to 1 to 2.5 to 1, which is good, ne? That's it. You can say which is good. They are still able to cover their short-term debt. Or, you guys see what I mean? Okay? So, in our minds, having more cash is better. Okay? We all think that. But in this ratio is not about how much cash you have. This ratio is about, do I have enough money to cover my debt? And if there is still money left, is that money really working for me? Or is it just lying there? You see? So, what else can I do with the cash that's just lying there? Put it in a 32-day deposit, where it's still available within 32 days. Ne? But it earns a higher interest. It's working for me. Here, if I have too much cash, it doesn't work for me. It's just lying there on the beach. You see? I want to maximize the efficiency of my cash. So I want to keep enough cash to be able to do what I need to do, right? Sure? But I don't want to keep too much cash, because you also run the risk of it getting stolen, ne? If you have too much cash and your internal control is maybe a little off, that cash can be stolen by the bookkeeper, it can be stolen. You hear what I'm saying? That it's, you want to maximize the efficiency.
Well, will it also include when it's in fixed deposit?
Fixed deposit is a non-current asset.
I'm saying, as like you put it in an investment.
Yeah?
Will it also include when you have no cash?
No, it's tied up. You can't use it. Remember, what is this? This is cash and cash equivalents. When is the only time where fixed deposit is in the cash and cash equivalents? It's the moment it matures next year. You see? So if I take it out, I put it in a fixed deposit, it's going to be a non-current asset. So it won't be part of this calculation. Okay. Yes. Yes, I was